You are about to embark on a poetry journey over the next few weeks during this really fast paced poetry project. And you'll get to be creative, have a lot of artistic license, and just have fun imitating different forms of poetry and developing your own poetic voice. And this is going to be a chance for you to take the things that you've learned about poetry by studying some of the classics and connecting device to meaning by writing your own poems. And we're going to look at three categories of poetry on this project. We're going to look at short poems, so haiku and epigrams. Those are really fun. Then classic poems, we'll look at the English sonnet, and then a more modern type of poetry called spoken word. And I'm deleting this because we're not doing it. So throughout the poems that you're about to write, you're going to be able to choose your topics, choose what you want to write about. But one thing you'll need to include throughout these four things that you're going to write are 10 different poetry devices. And I'm not saying 10 in each poem, I'm saying 10 across all of the poems. So I'll have a list, I'll show you in a minute, that's at the end of this project. Each device has to connect to the meaning. And I want you to think back to one of the first poems we read. Remember the line, smooth streams and smoother numbers flows. That device, that alliteration with the S's, it connects to what the meaning was in that sentence about the smoothness of which the poem rolls off your tongue. And so we're not using devices arbitrarily. You really have to think about how you want to use devices. And so you'll put 10 throughout your poems and underline and label what they are, so that I know that you use those on purpose. That is my dog, if you hear that. So you have some due dates here, but I want you to see that you'll be doing haiku. And what you're going to do is write 10 haiku. And we'll do some of that in class. We'll practice. You'll have time in class to write those. But you'll also create a little visual piece. And that can be in the form of something you painted or drew or made a collage. It can be something that you made in Photoshop, or it could even be a photo that you yourself took. It has to be something you originally made. You can't just rip it off of Google. And then you'll take 1 to 3 of the haiku that you wrote originally and create and present that along with your visual piece. And so you'll write 10 total and then pick your favorite 3, and you can present those to the class with the visual piece. So that could look like you coming up with some sort of photo collage you made in Photoshop. And it has to do with the haiku that you wrote. And we'll talk more about the specifics of the haiku, and that'll make more sense once we talk about haiku in class. Then you're going to write some epigrams. You'll write 5 epigrams, and those you won't present to the class. You'll just include in your final project. Then you'll do an English sonnet, and there are 2 due dates here. March 4th is the rough draft that you're going to bring to class. You're going to bring to class 2 copies of your rough draft. We're going to do a peer evaluation. So this one you get the most points for because I think it's the most difficult one to write. And so again, you'll have time in class to write that, and I'll be there to help you. Then the peer evaluation will help you, and then on the 6th, you'll actually recite your sonnet to the class. And we're going to talk about how to deliver that in a way that is good, and that will get you all the points. You don't have to memorize that. You can have that printed out with you. And then lastly, you're going to write a spoken word poem, which is one of my favorites right now. It's a more modern type of poetry, and you've probably heard about this or even seen or heard these performed. And that's actually going to be a video that you're going to make and show that to the class on March 18th. And I will warn you, that is the week after spring break. So I'm encouraging you now to not, to avoid procrastination on this and really try to get that done. And you'll have a little bit of time to write that in class, but not much. So this is your homework, guys, for the next few weeks, is to really be working on these things. And we'll have a few days in class where you can write these. And then the final, everything is going to be due on March 18th. You're literally going to hand me everything that you wrote. And those specifics are right here. You'll have a cover page. You'll have your typed poems. and it just tells you everything to do. So everything is lined out for you right here, so that you can see everything that you need to do to get all the points. And let me scroll down. Remember to put your 10 different poetic devices. And I said from the list I give you. I'm going to go ahead and scroll down and show you that list at the very end. This is a very long packet. It's on page, whatever page this is. It says poetry devices, use these in your poems. And this is just a helpful little thing that you can look at, lots of definitions and examples. So for instance, when you write your haiku, you might add some cacophony in one of your haiku that you write. So if you did that and you use that device to connect to the meaning, then you would underline the line or the word that is cacophonous, and you would label it cacophony, okay? Later you might have an allusion in your sonnet, and you guys know what allusions are, so you might reference something that's familiar and you've used that allusion to connect to your meaning, to really add meaning to your poem. Then you could underline the allusion and label it allusion. So that's all I mean by that, and again, you're using 10 throughout all of them. Okay, so you'll get 70 points. I'm sorry, 70 points, I think, for all the type stuff that you're going to turn in. And then the other 30 points are from the presentations that you're going to do throughout. And again, I just gave you those due dates. So you're going to present your haiku, your sonnet, and your spoken word poem, which is the video. And that tells you everything that I'm looking for in it. Let's talk about the sonnet. When you recite your sonnet to the class, it needs to be something that you have practiced. This is something that you've written and that you are proud of, and you have put your heart and soul and your time and effort into this. So I expect it to be a really good recitation of your poem. So for instance, you need to enunciate your words. You need to pause when appropriate. Remember, we talked about how you don't have to pause at the end of every single line unless there's a punctuation that tells you to pause there. Sometimes in a sonnet, you can continue on to the next line without pausing. And you know the meaning of your poem and what words need to be stressed. Okay, you might add some emphasis to certain words, and that again is your poetic delivery of your poem. Okay, you need to stress important words. And your recitation must match the tone of your poem. If you write a really melancholy poem about love that you had experienced and then lost, but you recite it in a really happy way or even a boring way, a monotone way, that you're going to lose points because your recitation needs to match the tone of your poem. If you've written something that's more excited and happy and adoration, then your tone, the way you say that, needs to match. Another component of your sonnet is a turn or a shift in the tone. And so you need to reflect that when you are reciting it. So you might start with a certain tone and everything that you're saying is happy and adoring, but then remember that you're going to shift, and it's usually before the third quatrain. The tone usually shifts, or the subject matter shifts, or the rhythm shifts for a second. That's when you need to change your tone and make sure that you have practiced that. Take your time, don't breeze through your recitation, and I mean slow down and read it, because we have to understand what you're saying, and I don't want you to just blabber it out. You will lose your points if you just breeze through it. Let your audience take time to think about it. And I'll post some example sonnets from YouTube that you can listen to and understand what I'm saying, that this is technically a dramatic reading of this. You need to stand up straight and be confident in what you're reading. I will take off a point for every or other kind of space filler, like what I just did. So if you don't know what to say, just let it be silent. -1 point for every word that I can't understand. So if you're mumbling and I can't understand things, I'm just going to start tallying and minusing. So again, this goes back to your practice. And I'll just take off 5 points if you breeze through your poem without adding any meaning to your recitation. In other words, if you sound like a boring robot, or if your tone is not apparent in your recitation, then you're going to lose 5 points. So that goes back to everything I just said, making sure that your presentation of the sonnet is a really good reflection of what your sonnet means, and don't just blow it off. There's nothing embarrassing about reciting something that you wrote with a lot of confidence and even a little drama. You guys are not too cool for school for this, okay? So we're just gonna do it, and it's gonna be awesome. And then again, all of that carries over into the spoken word poem. And these are really cool. You guys have a lot of creative liberty with these. And when it comes to the video part, I don't want you to spend a ton of time editing. Choose a really simple program that's free or something you have on your computer. Like iMovie is a really easy one. You can use YouTube, just sign up for a free YouTube or Google account. If you have Gmail, you should be able to access YouTube and create a video that's just really simple. So make sure that your video is quality. Make sure that the audio is not muffled, and that when you do use any kind of images or words or text on your screen, that they're not distracting, that they really add to your message. You can include music, but you don't have to. Just make sure that you know how to adjust the level, the volume level, so that the music doesn't overpower your words. The video must include both your audio of the poem, that's just you reading it in the way that makes sense for your poem, and it has to include some sort of written text. So you don't have to put the entire text of your poem on the video. I highly encourage you not to do that. Use text for emphasis. So if there are certain words that you want to emphasize, maybe those are the simple words that you put on the screen. An idea for you is you could do something like create a PowerPoint. This is the simplest thing I can think of. You can create a PowerPoint or a Prezi with certain words that you animate to pop up at a certain time while you read your poem. And you can do a screen capture of that or something. You could also video yourself reading the poem and then later add some text or things like that. If you're going to video yourself, I would highly encourage you, if you don't have a great camera, not to go outside somewhere where it's windy or where there are cars. I would go somewhere where there are buildings kind of protecting you and bouncing the sound off of, because if you have cars and wind, we're not going to be able to hear you. It might be something that you record and then you video yourself saying it while you're listening to the recording. There's so many ways you could do this. I don't want you to spend a ton of time on the movie production, the video production. I want you to spend time writing this. And again, enunciate your words, pause when appropriate, stress important words. It must match the tone, take your time. The key to spoken word is that it is super dramatic. And this is something that can be humorous, but spoken word is mostly for conveying a sense of injustice or an issue that you have with society or a culture. And so usually it's a really dramatic reading. So also you can do a found poem for an extra 5 points, just bonus. And when I'm talking about found poem, it's like it's where you take information from some other source and you put it together in a new poem to create a new meaning. And so you can choose something from a newspaper, pictures of street signs, graffiti, speeches, letters, even other poems. There could be a ton of ways that you could do it, but the key is to find one medium and make your poem based off of that. So say you have a bunch of shoe boxes in your closet and they have writing on them. Go cut out the writing on the shoe boxes and tape them down on a poster board. One year I had someone do college letters. They got all these admissions letters and they cut out the different phrases and logos on them, and they create a really, really funny found poem about what it is like to choose college and choose a college. So those are just ideas. And here's an idea for you. This looks like it's from a magazine, but they've taken magazine clippings and made something that's got a completely new meaning, and it's really cool. So you guys can read that when you look at this. So that'll be for 5 points, and you can present that to the class on the due date if you want those 5 points. So everything else you can read on your own and get an idea of what we're looking for. And there will also be some videos posted for each of these the day, for you to watch the day before the day that we're going to work on those things in class. So I'll post those online for you guys, and this will be worth a summative grade in the grade book. And March 18th is the big due date.